So, Wolfman Jeff,
Hey, how you doing, Alex?
doing well. We are Adamless tonight, but we've got interesting news coming out of USL League One. Lexington, Kentucky, uh, getting a new franchise to start play in 2023. Pretty
Yeah,
exciting. 4.5 hour drive up to
yes,
Lexington.
yeah, and I think it's a good rivalry. You've got the whiskey and bourbon kind of connection there.
There you
There's,
go.
of course, no animosity between Kentucky and Tennessee built in,
Right.
at all. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited to see someone else to have some fun. But I kind of wondering about what they're going to be called. What they're going to look like. Any thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
I hear you've got a scoop on some possible branding.
Yeah, this is not official, but this came on Twitter, so obviously, it could be fully trusted. You ready? This is
Yes.
it's what I'm hearing. What may show up for Lexington?
Oh, wow. That is
Yeah.
soccer kicking good right there.
Yummy, right there. So just keep it all tender.
Soccer chat with two T's because we're going to chat about soccer, but we're also in Chattanooga. So it's like a play on words. And, Chattanooga is a soccer city.
So, welcome to Soccer Chat, episode 15 of season 3. And things have not been good in Red Wolf land. Our first back-to-back losses since of this season, going back to last season towards the end. And we've got to have an intervention here, Jeff. I think
Yeah.
we need to talk with the Red Wolves about things that are going wrong. And what we need to do to fix it. We're very close to slamming the door on this playoff run. I think you and I both believe this is still a team that can win a championship.
Yes.
And so we need to kind of get into that. So, with any kind of intervention, of course, everyone's got to start by expressing their feelings and letting folks know. I think the first one here, we're going to let our senior correspondent, Eric Cantona, let the Red Wolves know how he feels.
All right, let's go ahead and see what he has to say. Well, so yeah, I don't know what I could say about that.
Very, very moving. I think he speaks for all of us.
Yes, I love football.
Yes.
Actually, the first part was a quote, was an attempt at a quote for King Lear, and I think he just kind of got derailed there. But
I don't think Rails were at all involved in the making of that speech.
speaking of derailed,
Jeff,
yes,
let's talk about what we see that's going right. What are some bright spots that the team has? What are things that we still have faith in before we really start to talk about what we think we're seeing that's going wrong for the club in the last couple games?
yeah, I honestly think there's a whole lot more going right than what's going wrong. I think changes need to be tweaks, not an overhaul. I think what's going right is I think by and large a blade of ball works, and that matters because if that was the issue, we'd have a lot bigger problems. I think we have a team that want to play and want to play together and want to put the work in. rather than just kind of seek their own individual glory. They want to win each game, and they're hungry for it. So that's crucial. I think the fan base is continuing to improve because that does have an impact. So in a lot of ways, even though we're on a small slump, we're at the height of where we have been since in our history. So that's why it seems kind of funny to feel frustrated because we had so many things going right, but these are all things that I think are hurting our chances right now. So I think these need to be looked at. What are the things you're seeing that's positive?
So one of the things that I'm positive about, if you look through the Red Bulls record throughout the season, our defense really is playing well. You can count on a shop teacher's hand the number of times that we've given up more than one goal in a game. I think there's only been like 4 times that anyone scored twice on us. No one scored more than that. The 4 losses that we've had this year are all 1-0 defeats. And so I think you can really see, like you talked about, Obleda ball works. We keep possession of the ball and we create chances for ourselves. One of the other things I think is seeing Ro Pineda out on that outside back. I think has been really interesting and I think it's really worked. I think it's been good for him, and seeing his success in that position. At a time when we really were, kind of lacking on defensive depth because of discipline and because of injuries and things. And so it's good to see a player like that stepping up in that way. Just like you said, the way that they are a team, they play together, they support each other. I don't think this last week in practice there's been, guys recriminating against each other and having arguments. They're all like, hey, let's get together and let's figure this out and let's see what we can do to bring home a championship to Chattanooga. And so I think those are definitely good things. As we break this down, we do need to talk about, what's happening. What are you seeing as the areas of struggle? Where are we having issues?
Well, the most obvious is the final third. So we're still creating chances, we're still pushing, but lately it seems like our shots aren't okay. Our increase of shots don't necessarily transfer to an increase of shots on goal. And so it was for a while there, you had to be a really good keeper to stop us, or at least to hold us back. And it seems like we're either so anxious or antsy that when we get the ball, rather than go ahead and set something up or do the cross, as soon as you get the ball, as soon as you get a shot, you just take it. And those shots have been poor shots. And so I've been seeing an increase in poor shots.
So I agree with that a lot. I think the biggest thing that's happening to us in the final third is kind of a vicious cycle. Mm-hmm. Things have gotten very static. Players get the ball out on the wing, whether it be Ricky, Markey, different player, one of the outside backs, and they stand on the ball and they take a guy one-on-one. They do a little bit of dribbling, trying to beat a guy. And because they're doing so much in a small space, trying to beat that guy one-on-one, the other players aren't moving. And so they're not getting to space, and that cross is just harmlessly being cleared away, or it's in a position where they can't really generate good power on it. What we need is to find a way to create that virtuous cycle where I get the ball and I'm passing it quick to a teammate. As the ball moves, all the teammates are moving. And that's what's really going to kind of part the Red Sea, as it is, of these opponents that we're playing, and create those opportunities, chances to put those shots in the corners here, as one of our listeners is talking about. The shots are going straight at the keeper. So I think that's kind of the virtuous cycle that we need to create, is pass and move. I think it's what Coach Obleda wants to see. And when you think about the chances that we had last week against Richmond, Blake Frischneck's 2 best chances were essentially running little give and goes with Carrera Garcia that put the defense on its heels. And we were kind of unlucky to finish those.
Yeah, Blake has struggled a bit. I hate to point out, but it's he hasn't. It's been a while since he's scored. I think I'm not 100%. Is he our starter? I know we have a new guy we brought in, but he just got here. I don't know if that's going to change this next game. That's kind of running ahead. I do remember the last time that we had played, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. The last time that we had played over at North Carolina. Sorry, when we hosted North Carolina, which was the last time that we played them, we had a different setup. And let me go ahead and share this. So, if you could see there, this would this goes back to a 4-2-3-1, which is honestly the 4-2-3-1 has been more successful for us. The last 2 games that we've won have been 4-2-3-1, and by and large, most of the games we've won or pulled from a loss, to a draw, have been when we've played 4-2-3-1. And the last time we've only had one game that we've won that was with the 4-5-1, and that was against Omaha, which is worth celebrating because it was against them. But by and large, we've struggled with that, and all three of our losses recently that we've had have been with a 4-5-1. So I'm not sure that is working, and I know Coach is also adjusting because he hasn't had some of the players available. He hasn't had Navarro, and then he didn't have Luna, and then he didn't have Capizzucci, and now he doesn't have Ramos. So he may not be able to be as flexible as he was. But I like this lineup. And what happened at this match, you had Ricky actually start as our forward. And at the half, we had Espana drop out, and then Ricky moved over to the wing, and we had Galindres come into the half. I think we all talk about how much we really enjoy watching Juan Galindres in the second half. I wonder, Alex, what do you think about if we tried to recreate this? Actually, we could do exactly this and just substitute Capizzucci for Ramos in this image. What are you thinking?
So I think it's no surprise that we have made a signing so late in the season of a forward, David Teixeira, because as you've talked about, Blake has struggled. He's got the 1 goal early in the year against Greenville. Even Juan Galindres has had kind of a drop in form, has not been scoring goals as consistently lately. And really, if you look back over the last 7 games, we've got 4 goals, and 3 of those were in the game against North Carolina that you're referencing. So
yeah,
take that one away, and out of the last 6, we've scored once. So I think there's a lot that needs to change in how we set up the attack, in being the attacking players. I think you're probably going to see David Teixeira get the start and see what he can do. He is new to the team, and so they've had to kind of build up his fitness a little. But I think being able to do that and let Galindres come off the bench, allow a player like Ricky to move back to more of a number 6 where he can move the ball in tandem with Carrera Garcia. And then it comes down to who we have on the wings, who is going to help kind of come and bring some of that speed and cut into defenders. A player that we have not seen the last few weeks that I think adds a lot of dynamism to our offense is Jackson Dietrich. I would love to see him get back out on the field and really try to go at North Carolina.
Yeah, I think, we've seen him, but he's been a lot more limited. He's been coming off the bench and much later. The other observation I've had was we're not necessarily using all of our substitutions. We have up to 5 substitutes. In the last game, and even after we had lost Ramos, he didn't have anyone else come in. We didn't make a change there was no more substitutes. So I'm wondering did we forget that we have a couple other substitutes to come in there? So I kind of wondered why didn't we bring in fresh legs into the last match? But you talk about Juan Galindres and his scoring. I brought this up here, and what you could see here is on this line. You could see. Let me point out. This shows, of course, his goals. This is the first game. He's played every game except for one, which he couldn't go to Toronto. So he was not in the squad. But he's been in every other game here. But you can see the pattern, goals, This was, goals, couple of games off, couple of goals, and then just this one lone goal here at the North Carolina game, which was a goal fest. And so I'm going to be blunt. This, I'm not saying it's all on Juan that we are not winning, but we have never lost a game when Juan Galindres scores.
So it really comes down to how we're going to cause that to happen. And I think it comes down to, getting back to pass and move and real oblate ball and not just, long diagonals, isolation out on the wing and guys trying to, do a couple step overs and get across. It's really going to come down to people moving, stretching opposing defenses. We have an opportunity that, we're playing two of the bottom teams in the league over the next two games. We're going to North Carolina where we've won. We're going to be home against Toronto. So I think we're in an opportunity, pardon me, as we go driving over gravel here. I know, making Jeff seasick. So
I feel like we're on Star Trek.
We've got an opportunity, and what I'm looking at, we get ourselves to 46 points. I think that pretty much slams the door on getting in the playoffs and most likely being able to host. Maybe not in the top 2 where we get the bye, but definitely in that top 4 where we're going to get to host a game. And I know that is a huge goal for this franchise, is to be able to host one of these USL playoff games, get a excited crowd on a beautiful fall evening in CHI under those lights, and see what we can do from there. So I want to see the best team get put out there. I don't want to see experimentation in these next couple of games, even though it's kind of against those teams that we would consider down at the bottom of the team. And I think the best way for us to get that win going into Greenville is for it to have not a lot of pressure on it. So,
yeah, I think you're right. Our next two games, if we struggle against North Carolina, I think that's when the panic button goes off. We're not in panic button yet, but that would be very troublesome if we do not come back with any points at North Carolina. That is really bad, and I don't think that's happening. I totally agree that the next two matches are a perfect time for us to regroup. As far as for experimentation, if we end up playing as we've played North Carolina with a 2 or 3 goal match, and then maybe bring in someone later on in the match who hasn't had any time, such as Zaragoza. I don't think he should start this match, but I think this could be a game he could come in the second half, especially if things are padded well. But yeah, I think we need to not play the 4-5-1, go back to the 4-2-3-1. And of course, I understand that has a lot to do with what he has available. And remember that other teams have been watching us, and the tricks, if you will, that worked, because they weren't all tricks. Obviously, it was work. They're on to us. So they're expecting Marky and Ricky, and they're expecting Juan and Jose. So what we need to do is we need to play our ball and own it and bully our way in. We lost that. Not that we've lost the fight, but I think we've lost that confidence of. We were at a point where when we walked on the pitch, it was like we knew we were going to win. It's a little cocky maybe, but I don't think we are playing with that same level of confidence right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think teams do kind of have a game plan. They try to come in and they're going to sit in, and they're going to make the game ugly. And they're going to, flop on the ground and have the referee eating out of their hand and get us frustrated and allow us to isolate ourselves on the wing. And so I think we have to kind of fight against that game plan, really get the ball moving, not be so worried about what the referee's decisions are, and get out there and play. And, I want to put to rest a narrative that seems to be springing up. We don't have Adam here. He's the most online of any of us. But It kind of seems like the Red Wolves have some reputation as being dirty players. I don't know where that comes from. But the broadcaster felt the need to accuse Jonathan Ricketts of stomping on one of the Richmond players. And now I want to say Jonathan Ricketts
Yeah, he's
is
such
no
a
shrinking
savage.
violet. Well, it's the thing is like, he's not a shrinking violet. He is not afraid to, get stuck in on a tackle and get a yellow card if that's, what he's got to do to help his team win. But if Jonathan Ricketts in some kind of collision or tangle was to step on an opposing player, he is the first player who would be down there apologizing and checking on him.
He is a gentleman. I know sometimes Ramos will try to stir the pot, and I think he's trying to get into other people's heads. But that's
he gets
about
in their
it.
head, and
Yeah.
we've got a lot of guys who get very frustrated with a lot of the diving and flopping that they see, and they do say stuff, and maybe they shouldn't. Probably they shouldn't, and we're not immune to it. I've seen Red Wolves players do, their own kind of embellishment.
Yeah.
So they need to stop taking that personally. But here again, I almost got put in timeout by my wife watching this game last Saturday when there was all sorts of pointed criticism. First of all, how many League One broadcasts do you watch where there's any criticism? But very pointed criticism of Jason Ramos for getting a second yellow when he did nothing more than try to jump and win a header on a cross while his team is behind a goal and managed to come down in kind of a crowd where the goalkeeper was, who then fell over and grabbed his ankle. Yeah. I don't necessarily fault the goalkeeper for, going to ground after he made that save. That's what you do to try to help kind of leak some time off the clock. You're trying to protect a win. They're going for a playoff spot. But the narrative that, we're so undisciplined, we've got to stop getting these red cards. The red card was a bogus second yellow, which is the second time in a row that's happened to us. That narrative of, we're so undisciplined just doesn't fly with me. We've got to keep playing our game and not kind of shrink back.
It's a third time in 4 matches.
Those kind of cards.
It was the third time in 4 matches that we've had that scenario.
Right. So it's the third red card,
so
and 2 of them were very bogus second yellows, and the third one was a fairly controversial red card that, even the more I watch it, the more I think it may have been somewhat justified. But that's the thing to me, is that none of those are, oh my gosh, I can't believe this guy lost his head, or oh my gosh, I can't believe that guy was so careless. So the narrative of we've got to stop getting red cards doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Which is interesting because we've had no straight red cards, and until 4 games ago, we had none. We had no yellows that went to red. We actually are not very high on, if you look at the standings for yellow cards. So we're not very high on that. So that's been a recent thing. It's been a frustrating thing. I don't know. It's but we have to. Okay, there's only so much, and you pointed this out, I think, at the last last podcast, that there's only so much we could do, knowing that the refs are going to be inconsistent. So we almost have to plan for bad reffing. So that's out of our hands. But what is in our hands?
Yes.
What can we change? And I think we have to work on getting our confidence back, getting our moxie, but also trusting our teammates when we get up there into the box. So rather than just take the quick shot and kick it right to the keeper, trust that your teammate is going to be there to follow through. And then when a teammate is over there, have their back. Don't just abandon them there. So I think we need to see more team play in that box.
I think that's very well said. So we're getting close to the men's national team kickoff. So this is a short program. So quickly, yes. Jeff, what do you think the result is going to be this Saturday, 3 p.m. at Wake Med Park in Cary, North Carolina? How do you think the Red Wolves are going to fare?
I think it's going to end up being a 1-3, which is, I think we've had that before with them. I think when we were at North Carolina, we ended up with 3 and they had 2. The last time they were at Chattanooga, we had 3, they had 1. And I think it's going to be similar to that I think it's going to be that where they're going to get the 1 goal, but we're going to come back with 3. I think we're going to get the first 2. They're going to come back, and then we're going to steal their thunder again.
We've got some very confident viewers. I appreciate that. So I think this is going to be a little closer. I'm thinking something more like a 2-0. I think we get back to basics defensively. Tim Trilk able to keep that clean sheet, and we score a couple and get a little bit of mojo back before we come back to town for Toronto, where I know the guys were upset about the circumstances of that trip up north and are really looking for revenge when
Yes.
those guys come to Toronto. But they can't look past North Carolina, a team that's beaten Richmond a couple times, team that beat Greenville. You cannot sleep on this team, even though you have beat them thrice already.
So this Facebook user who's saying this comments and it said the 10-0, and then now has I sent a memo to the boys. That is our own. That is Kay Baker.
Super fan Kay Baker, lovely.
Super fan. So when they say they sent a memo to the boys, they probably got that memo because she's got the in.
And when Kay Baker talks, those boys listen. So, U.S. Jamaica about to kick off. Jeff, you got a prediction in that game?
I think it's going to be a 2-0. I think it's going to be pretty comfortable, but I don't think it's going to be stellar. I think I think it's going to be a comfortable win, but it's not going to be an impressive win.
I think 1-0. I think we score early, and we spend 75 minutes with our hearts in our chests, our throats, waiting for an equalizer a couple of times where it's almost going to happen, but we manage to see it out. So
I'm going to be watching Mexico and Canada later on this evening as well, because they start about 2 hours.
Very good.
Raul is back.
Other quick, before we sign off, Biggleswade report. Southern League Cup kicked off in midweek. Our Biggleswade Town friends unfortunately fell on penalties. Our Biggleswade FC friends were victorious, moved on to the next round, and history at Biggleswade United. The ladies played their first ever women's FA Cup match and were victorious, and they are now going to get to host the next round at the Keach Hospice Care Stadium there in Biggleswade. So the women's FA Cup coming to Biggleswade. Congrats, ladies.
That's cool. That is very cool.
All right. Well, we hope you folks enjoyed this brief podcast. Hope you enjoy the match coming up. Go USA. And enjoy the Red Wolves on Saturday.
All right. We got to get out of this slump. So,
bye.
All right. So, yeah, I am starting to get a little nauseous with you driving that way there. So.